So this is going to be a quick video tech tip on how to polish the rails on your Hi Capa 5.1 or 4.3. You're going to need some things first. First off, some 1000 grit sandpaper, also known as auto paper, auto sandpaper, whatever. It's going to look very smooth. When you scratch it, it'll make a little white streak. You're also going to need some sort of silicone oil or this kind of oil, same thing. Just this one's the aerosol and this one's the liquid kind. And you're going to need alcohol or water, so whichever one you want. And last thing you're going to need is a towel. So the way I start off my polish rails is this one's been hasn't been polished, but I've had a metal slide on there, so it has a little bit of the grinding marks and all that. So what I start off doing first is putting some alcohol, or you can put some water as well, on the rag, and you're just gonna clean your gun. You're just gonna clean the rails, make sure you get all that dirt off, because there's no point in polishing it and not seeing what exactly you're polishing. So once you do that, I've already pre-washed this one, so it's kind of good to go. But anyways, just do that, and then after, what you're gonna want to do is get a little piece of the sandpaper. I usually cut little pieces. I've seen some people that use the block. I used to use the block too. It really helps out, but not all the time. And then just fold it. And what you're going to want to do is apply some of this lube. You can also use water for this, because this sandpaper is meant to be used with water. Or I find that lube helps a lot to sand it. And just put it against the rails. Make sure you have a good amount there. Alright, see if the camera can zoom in on here. You're going to see that there's still some black right here. So what you want to do is just start sanding back and forth. Now I'm usually careful with the side, because sometimes if you sand too much, you actually start sanding the side right here. It didn't happen in this frame. This frame's just worn. But I mean, if you really don't care, then go ahead and So it's just going to slide back and forth. It's going to take a good while to start getting this up and going. Alright. So as you can see here, the main goal of this is to get all this black stuff out. You want to get as much of it as you can off. Alright, so my way of doing it, so I won't get the frame, is usually rolling it like that and sanding it. Not that hard to do, just be careful when you do it. There's been many times, and I still do it to this day, where I sand my slide, because you can also sand the slide rails as well, but I sand the slide and the sanding the side frame. Yeah, a lot can happen. So this is just one of those things where you want to be very careful about, and it's going to be one of those time-consuming things. But if you like working on hand capas like I do, it's something you don't mind. Sometimes I even watch TV while I'm doing it. Usually like this part right here, I don't really worry too much about sanding too much off. Alright, so once you start seeing that the sandpaper is not starting to work as much, let's go ahead and get some of that alcohol that you had before. Putting it more on the rag. Again, you can also use water. And just cleaning the slide, the frame I mean. And what will that do? That'll take all that black gunk out that you had from sanding the frame. Alright, so you should start getting like a mirror finish, not mirror, but somewhat of a silver finish, and that's when you're making progress. Usually I try to go for all the black off the frame, but sometimes there's just that black that does not come off. So yeah. So again, just sand this side. You want to sand this too. Be careful about sanding this. You don't want to sand the disconnector. It's not on this gun, this frame, but you don't want to sand the disconnector, because the disconnector sticks up from here. I'll show it on this one. This one is sanded. I haven't done the mirror finish, and I'll explain what that is in a bit. But usually I keep the gun cocked back. Just be careful not to sand the disconnector. So on this one I just sanded it. So again, just all it is, it's very easy to do, but it's one of those things that if you're not paying attention, you're going to mess up something as far as the scratch. You don't want to use any lower grit sandpaper because you'll end up sanding off too much. I've made the mistake of doing that a long time ago when I first started with the Hi Capas. I used a 300 grit sandpaper, and it's really abrasive. You know, it's like almost rock. And man, I just sanded off way too much. And this was for fitting a slide to this, and I just sanded way too much off these rails, and you know, it started getting wobbly. And that's something, you know, that won't really happen with a 1000 grit, but you know, still, it's I don't think it'll happen. Just be careful, you know, as always. So yeah, that's pretty much all how to do it. After you use the 1000 grit, try to get 1200 grit or 1500 grit, and just working your way up from there. So let's say this was 1200. Again, just clean it all off first and then apply it. And what you're really trying to go for is a mirror finish. Now, this really only works for metal guns because plastic on metal doesn't, you know, really help that much. So, for example, I've done some. You can't really tell, but because the slide is silver. But I've done some polishing right here along the rails, some mirror polishing, and that's what I use on my other gun. That's the Wildcat. And you know, you'll know when you did a really good job when your stuff is smooth, and I mean like creamy smooth. I mean, it's smoother than what it was before. I mean, you can hear it. It's so different. It just glides. It's just very different. It makes a big difference with metal on metal, you know. So there's that. So again, once you're done with the 10,000, you've got a lot of the black off. You know, go up to 1200 or 15,000, 1500 grit, and you know, get that mirror finish. Now again, if you have that metal slide, it won't really work for a garter slide because garter slides are, it'll work a little bit, but I mean, the metal on that is really not that great. But you know, if you can get a Pro G4 slide, Prog 4, whatever, get one of those, you know, and that's really high quality stuff, and you'll see a big difference in this. It really makes a difference as far as your recoil speed, the smoothness of the recoil, you know, all that. It's one of those fine-tuning things that it's really easy to do, and it's a great thing to learn on a Hi Capa. So again, after you're all done with that, just make sure you clean everything, make sure all the dirt's off, and you know, again, put oil on there and rack it a bit, you know, work it in, and eventually, you know, it'll get done. Again, this is, make a comparison, see if you can tell the difference. You can't really tell the difference, but yeah, this one's been sanded slightly. I didn't go up to a 12,000, 15,000. This one is still black. It's kind of hard to do it with silver framed guns just because, you know, the frame itself is silver, but you can still tell. I mean, it's like comparing a mirror to something different. You know, I don't know, but you can tell. So yeah, and that's pretty much all there is to polishing. Just again, be careful when you're doing it because it's one of those things that'll mess up. All right.